Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. Do you want to introduce our subject or do you want to share an appreciation?
Well, we could. I appreciate the fact that you um, got up and sort of got us organized and with your thoughts, and that we're going to have a really good discussion, because the discussion, I think, is very, very important.
Thank you. Thank you. So I hear that you appreciate that I got up at all,
Yeah.
that I helped to get us organized around the
yeah,
discussion,
yeah.
and that you believe that this is a really important discussion.
Yeah, I do.
Are you open to an appreciation?
Yes, I am.
I appreciate that when I asked you if you'd like to be the dragger or the draggy today, you chose dragger and got us set up for the actual live and all the things
Right.
that go with it.
And so what I hear you saying is that you really appreciated me being the dragger this morning in terms of getting us all the technology set up.
I do.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're
And being
very
playful
welcome.
around it.
And being playful.
Yeah.
Calling you back and everything.
All those pieces. All right.
Yeah, even though we were in the same house. Yeah. Okay. So
visioning. Do you want to just introduce the idea? I mean, the subject that we're talking about today is really that in planning for travel, holidays, vacation. I mean, you could apply this to any aspect of
right.
your lives together, what you do together. It is absolutely essential that you have some kind of vision, because then you'll know if you're having success and living into it.
Yes. And it is decision making. But what is really important in making any type of decision of any significance is that you are being conscious of how it emotionally is impacting your partner as well as you.
So when you say emotionally impacting, what do you mean?
I mean that we all, when we're having decisions and we're interacting, we have feelings. And we will have feelings about what is being said, how it's being said, what is being decided, all of those things. And it really is important to take those into consideration as we move forward.
So in planning some kind of event, like a trip together, sitting down together, and then sharing your ideas, your plans, what your hopes are, your goals, your purpose in doing it. In the process of sharing it, you can also unpack and get familiar with what you're each feeling. So you're bringing feelings into the conversation.
That's right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So thank you. So I think the other piece, the sort of, I want to go, if you're okay with it, sort of big and then little.
Sure.
So the big is that we do need a vision.
Right.
And that in the process of visioning, yes, I agree with you. Feelings come up, ideas come up. We're wired so differently that without a process to understand how we might each want something different, we're not going to get to a goal.
Right. That's right.
Right. So visioning is typically used in businesses and in organizations for those businesses and organizations to know where they're going, right? What is the purpose?
Right. And in terms of a couple, it's really thinking about the space between. It's about we coming up as an entity with what our vision is.
So the relationship becomes not the business, but the organization that we are in service of.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
That makes sense. So, and some of the core pieces that we want to look at are, what are our values? They may be the same, they may be different. They are probably somewhat the same and somewhat different. What is it that we want to get out of an experience? And we may have some of the same ideas and some different ideas.
Right. And that's what will tap into the emotions and feelings that we do have. So yes, the values are really, really important, because it goes right to the heart of why we're doing, a trip or making a decision of a significant nature on any type of thing that you're envisioning about.
So can I give an example?
Sure.
So if we're going to travel to Europe, and I'm going because I really want to see the beaches, I really want to relax, I want to go into small art galleries, I want to sit in cafes, I want to go to the beach, I think I said that twice.
Yeah.
I want to
I guess you really want to go to the beach.
I want to enjoy coffee with my book. Those are I want to go for walks or hikes. Those are the things I want to do. Those are the sort of micro things I want to do in service of, in an effort to have some downtime, relax, not be thinking about all the things that normally occupy so much of my brain space.
Right.
And
that's the value that you are really putting
for
out
this trip, but for a trip. You might want to explore historical sites. You might
want to a museum.
You might want to learn. This might be a trip where there's an area in Europe where you really want to learn more about the history of it, the politics of it, the archaeology of it. And so those are two different.
Right. Like I want to be intellectually stimulated and increase my knowledge base.
Right. So now we have, but you also might want to relax, and that might actually be relaxing for you. We don't know.
Yeah. Right.
And so what we would do is we would start to have conversations, and we have a framework to have these kinds of conversations that help us to hear where our differences lie, and also find a place where we can then, it's not a compromise, but like make sure that some of what you need is being taken care of, and somewhat of what I need is being taken care of, with the ultimate goal that when we look back on this, we're going to say, yes, that met our needs.
Right. How successful were we in actually meeting our needs?
And we'll know how successful we were if there's a match, if what we were looking for, our vision, matched what we did.
Right. Yes. And I think the operative word you used, and what besides looking at your values, the other thing that you do is that you identify the goals. You identify what your goal is specifically for what you're planning to do. And by doing that, what you're trying to do is match up in planning and goal setting how your values are being impacted by that.
So can we talk a bit about process for this?
Sure.
I mean, absolutely. It's a co-creative process. If you think about the space between in a couple as something that we are filling with intentional, purposeful energy.
Right.
And the energy is meant to serve the relationship. Right. It's meant to nourish us and nurture us. Then we need to be intentionally co-creative about it.
Right.
And so we have a process for this. And the process, of course, always includes a certain amount of dialogue, because we are proponents of dialogue, that if I speak, Tim mirrors. We don't always do this in real time in our lives and in our teaching, but in our conversations, in our planning, in our visioning, we always do it. So I speak, Tim will mirror something I have to say I'm looking for. He'll speak and share, and then I'll mirror him. So we're always in service of the relationship. And as we said earlier, that's kind of the space between, and it is in a way the business or the organization that we are creating a vision for.
Right. And really what that is achieving is you being able to articulate your goals.
Yeah.
And I, in hearing your goals, and you are able to actually decide, is that really what I want to do? And then I can really take in exactly what you're saying so that I can see how that impacts me, or how it differs from what I want.
Yeah. So an example of that might be, I'd say, one of the favorite things that I know we've done before.
Right.
Are you okay if we move into specifics?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So when we travel together, one of the things that I really love that we do is we blend a little bit of activity every day, like some kind of yoga practice, or a hike, or a long walk, or a paddle in some cases, with some, we typically do a bit of meditation, but also with some quiet time where we're reading, or just being self-reflective, or napping, or whatever it is we're doing. Like, I like our blend that we both value really active, energetic endeavors, and also quiet moments.
Right. So what you're saying is that we sort of have a blending of quiet moments with energetic endeavors, whatever that might be.
Right. And so then, as I say that to you and you mirror it back, And I might say to you, is that something you value as well?
Mm-hmm.
You might respond about what you value about that. And then if that is something that matches up for both of us, we're of course going to make sure that in going forward in our traveling, we have that incorporated.
Right. And, and really what that's doing is we're both making that agreement for the entity of us as a couple.
Well, we know it feeds us.
It
nourishes
us. Yeah, that's right. Even if some of that is us doing some things on our own.
Individually.
On
our
own.
Okay. I agree. So, and then the other thing I want to say about this that really matters, and you said this morning while we were talking about this in advance of the live, that we don't want there to be any limitations. Like when you start visioning, go big, go global, have a fantasy, really let yourself imagine, what if I could have everything that I wanted? And then we can bring it down to what is manageable and what is doable.
Right. And when you do that, what I find happens is that it helps to actually counteract any type of conflict that you might have in coming up with what you're going to do, because what you're actually doing is looking at the big picture first and not getting caught in the minutia of those small little things that can take you sideways in your discussions and whatever, because you have sort of a big picture goal setting perspective already laid out.
That's interesting. So in other words, you're kind of setting a unspoken, or maybe it's a spoken rule or guideline in the relationship that when you're doing the big dreaming together, it's like dreaming together.
Right.
When you're really dreaming together, you're saying, hey, this is my dream. Don't step on my dream.
Right.
And then afterwards we can break it down.
Right.
And that way we don't get caught up in the, why is that your dream, or criticism or judgment or any of those pieces. Right. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, very much so. And I think that when you also, in that sort of goal setting, you can look at different options. Some of the options, as you're saying, may not be doable. But what it does is it just opens you up to be co-creative.
It's the creativity.
It's the creativity.
Without the judgment.
Without sort of starting and saying, well, I don't think I have, the right clothes to wear today to do that type of activity.
Or I don't have the energy to live into your dream. Like, that's big. Why would you want to do that?
Right.
Whether it's a practical interference, like I don't have the gear for that.
Right.
Or whether it's an energetic one, like why would you want to do that? We're just getting rid of that, going big, going co-creative, having some fun, fantasy. It's a fantasy.
Right. And what you have to, and I think one of the things that happens is that you have to be willing with your partner to actually recognize that while you're talking about some of those options, that you're not shutting them down. And by not shutting them down, you're not agreeing to them. They're just options out there for you to take into consideration.
I'm going to mirror that.
Yeah.
So what I hear you saying is that if we listen to our partners and we listen well, that is not agreement. That's simply curious, open listening to our partner to see what it is that's in their heart and their mind and their ideas. And then we can work out later how that's going to translate to practical planning.
Right.
Did I get that?
That's right. Exactly. And by doing that, it opens you up as a couple to actually be creative.
Okay. And by doing that, then you are really engaging in a creative process together.
Right. Yes.
Okay. Should we offer some sentence stems that they can use for this? Okay.
Let's do that.
Okay. So again, just to reiterate, we are two different people with two different sets of values to some degree, maybe two different sets of goals for travel. Often couples will tell us, well, we don't necessarily like all the same things. That's fine. How are we going to get to the other side? So we have a few sentences. We have a lot more that we offer the couples who come with us on our trips.
Yeah.
We have a sort of some guidelines and pre-planning for travel with us that we send out, but a few of them are these. So one of them is one of the ones I just did. One of my favorite memories of traveling with you is, and then you would mirror that back and share one of yours. And then this one.
So, and another one would be, one of the challenges that I've experienced with you is, now that isn't, going to narrow. What that's doing is making a statement right off the bat where, I'm gonna get past this right now when it's been something that has challenged me.
Right. So you're exploring what's challenged in the past. You're digging into it so that you know how to not repeat that in some ways, or learn or grow from it.
Right. That's right.
One of our favorites is when we reflect back on this trip, like on the other side of it, one of the things that I want to feel is, or what I would like to reflect that made it successful is. So I'm putting myself into the future and imagining at the end of it, if I have had time to relax, if I've had time to feel deeply connected to you with mindful dialogue on occasion, if I've done this, then I'll say, hey, that was a success. And then you would mirror me, and then you would share.
Right. And I think that adding on to that is another one, which I really like, which is what I envision being fulfilled in me by doing whatever it is. Then that's related to the success, because what you're doing is looking at the fulfillment for you as an individual.
So what I hear you saying is there's some of these pieces that are going to be about the me, and some of them that are going to be about the us. And in the dialogue, in planning, you want to reflect on both.
Right. And I think you want to get it out there on the, out there in the discussion. And you're not holding on to, well, what about me? When do I get some time to myself or whatever? You identify what are some of the things that you can get out of it, or you need to get out of it.
And you can even move that to, I will feel partnered by you when we experience X on the trip.
Right.
That would be one where we each talk about it individually. And I would like to support you in one of the things I know you love to do by. So these are all, you guys can play with this. These are all sentence stems that lead us, and you want to do one on each side, into really co-creating this trip together and seeing what works and what doesn't work. And it may not all go, all of these things that you land on may not end up in the final vision, but they're sure going to take people a lot further along the path to where they want to go.
Yes, very much so. And that whole idea of values and goal setting leads to this whole concept that it's this space between us that is actually, we want to determine how we can come to the end of our travels or our trip or whatever we're talking about, our visioning, and we can say, this was successful. This was enduring. This was something that we can take forward into the future by looking back and saying, that's the way that we want to achieve in our relationship.
Would you like, in closing, to talk just for a moment about Greece? Because I had this idea about this new piece that has come up in this trip we're about to do right now, where we have room for a couple more couples. And we're going to land in Athens, and we've been talking to the other participants about, since we're all going to be there at the same time, are there things that we would like to do? And in our dialogue, we realized we have this rare opportunity where some people like to do the archaeological tours, and some people like to do the foodie tours, and we might not do them all together. And so it's been kind of fun to examine and anticipate that while we'll be together most of the time, we will have these separate experiences and be able to come back and share them with one another.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, is it's not seeing as two individuals sort of going off in different directions and having their own experiences without it really being something that you're both in agreement about. And you also are going to bring it back to the relationship
and share about what were the highlights. What did you love?
And it's not only the content of what you do, it's also the energy that you bring back to the relationship too.
Which is supportive and caring, and knowing that we have different interests, and that's fine. We can serve that and still feel deeply connected. Okay. So if you'd like more of these sentence stems for travel, you can always reach out to us. If you would like to join us on any of our endeavors, we welcome you. And thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.
Great Sunday. We'll look forward to seeing you soon.